Jonathan from Audible Elegance of Cincinnati, Ohio. We have a website, audibleelegance.com. Please do visit it. We're in the midst of our 40th anniversary, and we have running very special sales, so you can take a look there. We also have a new and used section there, and we've received some very lovely used equipment as of late, with more coming. Magnapan, quad, some totem, and there's other elements showing up. Tonight I thought I'd talk about integrated amplifiers and preamps and power amps. And the general historical rule of thumb had been a sort of hierarchy where it went from receivers that had built-in tuners to integrated amps with separate tuners, and then the big boys league was tuner, preamp, power amp. And while this was pretty much the trend in, let's say, the 70s and 80s, not so much in the 60s, one of the things that has changed over time is the fact that the integrated amplifiers and their quality have really become quite excellent. There are some spectacular units that we don't sell. Companies like, Amplifier, which makes really premium integrated amplifiers by all stretches of the imagination. But there are a lot of really quality integrated amplifiers today in the $1,000 to $3,000 league. And what has happened is that more usage of toroidal transformers for power supplies allowed them to make them smaller and actually better quality. And they're spending a lot of time really trying to do it right, because the world of receivers is simply gone. They're irrelevant for the most part. And certainly the tuners are. They oftentimes now have at least a moving magnet phonostage inboard, if not also a moving coil. They range in quality, so you have to kind of look at the product. But they oftentimes supply sufficient power for most people, in moderate rooms. Now, room sizes are kind of tricky with this channel being international, because a typical living room in the States is somewhat a meeting room size in the UK. I've seen it. And so what proved to be, as Julian Verica would say, sufficient in terms of power, in the States may prove to be insufficient. And so in the States side, you're typically dealing 45, 75 watts a channel for really nice constructed integrated amplifiers. They're not trying to beat the bandwidth gigawatts, so to speak. But where does that leave preamps and power amps? Well, preamps and power amps give you something that is not found in integrated amplifiers, which is dedicated power supplies to the preamplifier stage and power amplifier stage. And depending upon how much wattage and current is going to come off the power amplifier, they're going to address that typically in terms of the power supplies themselves. Their larger cabinetry, which allows them typically to use significantly more robust capacitors for the power supply. But there's that advantage with the separates. Preamplifiers can also vary in terms of their quality, but again, normally they are superior to what is found inside an integrated amplifier, and more dedicatedly so. Now, preamps and power amps compared to an integrated, you're typically talking maybe twice the cost to 2.5 times the cost at a minimum. So there's a bit more dedication to it. Separates in preamp and power amp also requires more cabinet space or more shelving space, which is where the integrated comes in. Certainly you can have a tabletop system with whatever you want for sources and an integrated amplifier, and you're not taking a massive amount of space. So there's those sort of advantages as well. We've found that the integrateds from Riga for us and those of Cambridge, if you're more on a budget, are quite nice. The Riga is sounding more musical, and again, for most people, quite sufficient. But if you're going to go a step further, that's where the preamps and power amps come in. And I myself would not be looking for anything, that has digital circuitry inboard on the preamps. I typically shy away from that myself. Depends again upon the quality and what's done. So those are things for you to look at and to consider. Depending upon what speakers you're ultimately going to go with, you may be better off with separate preamp and power amp. Not all speakers are the same in either efficiency. Certainly each room size varies tremendously. If you have a particularly large room, I think you really should be seriously looking at separate preamp and power amp. So you're more than welcome to ask questions on the video. I'll try to answer them as best I can. I try to do that. In a general sense, I'm shied away now from answering personal questions about their systems because I'm not visiting the room. I don't see the equipment. I don't know what the music tastes are. I have no idea what your volume like to play at. So try to keep them generalized for all the viewers. And there we are.